Well, hello there and welcome to the fireplace of the dollhouse for another reading of Grimm's complete fairy tales. That's right. Hey, and if you've been here before, you know what we like to do before we get into the reading. We like to get the mood set straight. That's right. Get them lights out, get that fire crackling element going, and play us a little crossharp. That's right. I got myself a brand new Suzuki low F valved harp. So let's try to put it through its paces, though it'll probably put me all through mine. Let's get it. Alright, hey, there's a little bit of Suzuki, a low F, and just so you can hear the difference there, here's your regular F. Alright, yeah, a little bit higher, isn't it now? In any event, you're not here for the harp playing, are you? Let's get into the read. Alright, I will abide. Okay, but you gotta understand how we do things around these here parts. Alright. What are we reading tonight? Eve's various children. That's right. Alright. When Adam and Eve were driven out of paradise, they were compelled to build a house for themselves on unfruitful ground, and eat their bread in the sweat of their brow. Adam dug up the land, and Eve span. Every year, Eve brought a child into the world, but the children were unlike each other, some pretty, some ugly. After a considerable time had gone by, God sent an angel to them to announce that he was coming to inspect their household. Eve, delighted that the Lord should be so gracious, cleaned her house diligently, decked it with flowers, and strewed reeds on the floor, and then she brought in her children, but only the beautiful ones. She washed and bathed them, combed their hair, put clean raiment on them, and cautioned them to conduct themselves decorously and modestly in the presence of their Lord. They were to bow before him civilly, hold out their hands, and answer to his questions modestly and sensibly. The ugly children were, however, not to let themselves be seen. One hid himself beneath the hay, another under the roof, a third in the straw, a fourth in the stove, and a fifth in the cellar, the sixth under a tub, the seventh beneath the wine cask, the eighth under an old fur cloak, and the ninth and tenth beneath the cloth of which she had always made their clothes, and the 11th and 12th under the leather out of which she cut their shoes. She had scarcely got ready before there was a knock at the house door. Adam looked through a chink and saw that it was the Lord. Adam opened the door respectfully, and the heavenly Father entered. Then arose stood the pretty children, and bowed before him, held out their hands, and knelt down. The Lord, however, began to bless them, laid his hands on the first, and said, Thou shalt be a powerful king. And to the second, Thou a prince. To the third, Thou a count. To the fourth, Thou a knight. And to the fifth, Thou a nobleman. And to the sixth, Thou a burglar. A burger, rather, has an H in it. And to the seventh, thou a merchant. And to the eighth, thou a learned man. The seventh, thou a merchant. The eighth, thou a learned man. Okay, so he bestowed upon them also all his highest blessings. All his richest blessings, rather. Well, I'm all out of sorts, all them numbers. And when Eve saw that the Lord was so mild and gracious, she thought, I will bring hither my ill-favored children also. It may be that he will bestow his blessings on them likewise. So she ran and brought them out of the hay, the straw, the stove, and wherever else she had concealed them. Then came the whole coarse, dirty, shabby, sooty band. And the Lord smiled, looked them all, and says, I will bless these also. He laid his hands on the first and said to him, Thou shalt be a peasant. To the second, thou a fisherman. To the third, a smith. The fourth, a tanner. To the fifth, a weaver. The sixth, a shoemaker. And the seventh, thou a tailor. The eighth, a potter. And to the ninth, a wagoner. The 10th, a sailor. The 11th, an errand boy. And to the 12th, a scullion all the days of thy life. When Eve had heard all this, she said, Lord, how unequally thou divest thy gifts. After all, they are all of them my children, whom I have brought into the world. Thy favors should be given to all alike. But God answered, Eve, thou dost not understand. It is right and necessary that the entire world should be supplied from thy children. If they were all princes and lords who would grow corn, thresh it, grind it, and bake it, who would be blacksmiths, weavers, carpenters, masons, laborers, tailors, and seamstresses, each shall have his own place, so that one shall support the other, and all shall be fed like the limbs of one body. Then Eve answered, O Lord, forgive me, I was too quick in speaking to thee. Have thy divine will with my children. Ooh. And that has been Eve's various children. I say she had quite a few of the ugly ones. They outnumbered the pretty. All right. Let's get in with another one, shall we? I don't think it's nearly as long. Maybe just the same. Let's get into it. The poor boy in the grave. There was once a poor shepherd boy whose father and mother were dead, and he was placed by the authorities in the house of a rich man who was to feed him and bring him up. The man and his wife, however, had bad hearts and were greedy and anxious about their riches, and vexed whenever anyone put a morsel of their bread in his mouth. The poor young fellow might do what he liked. He got a little to eat, but only so many blows the more. One day he had to watch a hen and her chickens, but she ran through a quickset hedge with them, and a hawk darted down instantly and carried her off through the air. And the boy called, Thief! Thief, rascal, with all his strength in his body. But what good did that do? Well, the hawk did not bring its prey back again. The man heard the noise and ran to the spot, and as soon as he saw that his hen was gone, he fell into a rage and gave the boy such a beating that he could not stir for 2 days. And then he had to take care of the chickens without the hen. But now his difficulty was greater, for one ran here and the other there, and he thought he was doing a very wise thing when he tied them all together with a string, because then the hawk would not be able to steal any of them away from him. But he was very much mistaken. After 2 days worn out with running about and hunger, he fell asleep, and the bird of prey came and seized one of the chickens, and as the others were tied fast to it, it carried them all off together, perched itself in a tree, and devoured them. The farmer was just coming home, and when he saw his misfortune, he got angry and beat the boy so unmercifully that he was forced to lie in bed for several days. When he was on his legs again, the farmer said to him, You are too stupid for me. I cannot make a herdsman of you. You must go as an errand boy. And then he sent him to the judge, to whom he was to carry a basket full of grapes. And he gave him a letter as well. And on the way, hunger and thirst tormented the unhappy boy so violently that he ate 2 of the bunches of grapes. And he took the basket to the judge. But when the judge had read the letter and counted the bunches, he said, 2 clusters are wanting. The boy confessed quite honestly that, driven by hunger and thirst, he had devoured the 2 which were wanting. The judge wrote a letter to the farmer and asked for the same number of grapes again. And these also the boy had to take to him with a letter. As he again was so extremely hungry and thirsty, he could not help it, and again ate 2 bunches. But first he took the letter out of the basket, he put it under a stone, and seated himself thereon in order that the letter might not see and betray him. The judge, however, again made him give an explanation about the missing bunches. "Ah," said the boy, "how have you learnt that?" The letter could not know about it, for I put it under a stone before I did it. The judge could not help laughing at the boy's simplicity, and sent the man a letter wherein he cautioned him to keep the poor boy better, and not let him want for meat and drink, and also that he was to teach him what was right and what was wrong. "I will soon show you the difference," said the hard man. "If you must eat, you must work, and if you do anything wrong, you shall be taught by blows." The next day he set him a hard task. He was to chop 2 bundles of straw for food for the horses. And then the man threatened, "In 5 hours I shall be back again, and if the straw is not cut to chaff by that time, I will beat you until you cannot move a limb." The farmer went with his wife, the manservant, and the girl to the yearly fair, and left nothing behind for the boy but a small bit of bread. The boy seated himself on the bench and began to work with all his might. As he got warm all over, he put his little coat off and threw it on the straw. In his terror lest he should not get done in time, he kept constantly cutting, and in haste, without noticing it, he chopped his little coat as well as the straw, and he became aware of this misfortune too late, and there was no repairing it. "Ah," he cried, "now all is over with me. The wicked man did not threaten me for nothing. If he comes back and sees what I have done, he will kill me. Rather than that, I will take my own life." The boy had once heard the farmer's wife say, "I have a pot with poison in it under my bed." She, however, had only said that to keep away greedy people, for there was honey in it. The boy crept under the bed, brought out the pot, and ate all that was in it. "I do not know," said he. "Folks say death is bitter, but it tastes very sweet to me." It is no wonder that the farmer's wife has so often longed for death. He seated himself in a little chair and was prepared to die, but instead of becoming weaker, he felt himself strengthened by the nourishing food. It cannot have been poison, thought he, but the farmer once said there was a small bottle of poisons for flies in the box in which he keeps his clothes. That no doubt will be the true poison, and bring death unto me. It was, however, no poison for flies, but Hungarian wine. The boy got out the bottle and emptied it. "This death tastes sweet too," said he, but shortly after, when the wine began to mount into his brain and stupefy him, he thought his end was drawing near. "I feel that I must die," said he. "I will go away to the churchyard and seek a grave." He staggered out, reached the churchyard, and laid himself in a newly dug grave. He lost his senses more and more, and in the neighborhood was an inn where a wedding was being kept. And when he heard the music, he fancied he was already in paradise, until at length he lost all consciousness. The poor boy never woke again. The heat of the strong wine and the cold night dew deprived him of his life, and he remained in the grave in which he had laid himself. When the farmer heard the news of the boy's death, he was terrified and afraid of being brought to justice, and indeed his distress took a powerful hold of him, that he fell fainting to the ground. His wife, who was standing on the hearth with a pan of hot fat, ran to him to help him, but the flames darted against the pan, and the whole house caught fire. In a few hours it lay in ashes, and the rest of the years that they had to live they passed in poverty and misery, tormented by the pangs of conscience. Wow, and that has been The Poor Boy in the Grave. And this has been Grimm's Complete of Fairy Tales. That's right. I got an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up your own copy and support the channel in the bargain. I much appreciate it if you do. Now let me say, that last fairy tale, I thought it was going to go a different way. I thought this boy was just going to happen into all sorts of fortune, so to say, or get discovered for what he had absently devoured. It didn't go that way at all, which was a little disappointing. However, they rectified that by burning down the house, because I didn't see that coming either. In any event, hey, I hope you enjoyed those. I know I enjoyed the latter for sure. I don't even remember the first one. But in any event, let's take us out, shall we? All right, hey, as I often like to say, kisses to your missus and the tip of my hat to your old cat. You better come on back now, you hear? You understand? You better. I hope you do. All right, you take care of yourself, and we'll see you on the next one.